Vintage Road.
And welcome back to my kitchen. I am Veronica, also known as V the Baker, and today we are going to make a 5-flavor pound cake. Pound cake is one of my favorite, most probably baked cakes that I do, especially when I'm at home, because it makes the house smell good. Like, who needs a candle when you have a pound cake? It's easy to serve, it's easy to store, you can freeze it, and you always have a slice of cake for when you want more. So today we're gonna make the 5-flavor pound cake with a glaze, and you'll be able to find the recipe on my newsletter. So to begin on the pound cake, I know many people do different things to base their pans. However, I like to stick to the tried and true way of how I learned to base a bundt pan when I am making pound cakes, because for me, it's the tried and true way. So that's what I'm gonna do today and forevermore. So we're gonna start with some shortening and make sure that we get into all of the grooves of the pan. And then we are gonna coat it with flour and set it to the side. And I'm going to use my hands. You can use a pastry brush if you prefer. I like to use my fingers just so that I can feel all of the various grooves in the pan to ensure that it's coated with the shortening before adding the flour. So if you want to get a close-up of this is going to take some time, so I don't know if you want to get all of it or just So after we have basted the pan with the shortening, and I should have said this one before I started, but I prefer to use my hands because I want to be able to feel all of the grooves and ensure that I have coated the pan to the best of my ability, or thoroughly, I should say. And I also sometimes think using a pastry brush, which you can do, but I feel like I waste and end up scooping up some of the shortening, and it never gets used and it gets washed out in the brush. So after doing the shortening, we're going to take some flour and sprinkle it around the pan. And it's probably going to get a little loud in here, but I'm just going to rotate the pan and let's see if we can do this for you. And just let that flour fall into all of the spots. So yes, it is going to get a little loud because I'm going to have to bang it to move it around. So we have basted our pan, and I'm going to set this to the side. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull out our mixer. And one of the things that I like and can appreciate about a pound cake is that when you get all of your ingredients together, which we did at the very beginning, you're able to move very, very quickly through the process of mixing. And one thing that I do know, and I always encourage when someone is making a pound cake, you don't want to overmix. So taking time and stopping and trying to get your ingredients together step by step as you're adding it to the bowl sometimes can lead to overmixing. Overmixing your cake doesn't always come out right. So these are things that I always do when I make a pound cake so that I can move through the process. I have a consistent cake product at the end to enjoy. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got our mixer. Plug that up. And to begin, I am going to add in my room temp butter. I am using salted butter for this recipe. So we're going to use 1 cup of butter. I guess I should take this off. And I am getting it all. And you can see how soft the butter is. I'm not forcing my spatula across. And after adding the butter, we are going to add in the sugar. And I am also going to add in the oil. And that will be part of our liquid ingredients to get started. We're going to cream that together. So we're going to do 3 cups of sugar. And a 1/2 cup of oil. So rather than using 3 sticks of butter, I do switch out 1 stick of butter for a 1/2 cup of oil. Makes for a lighter and more moist cake. We're going to put this in here. And we're just going to allow this to cream. So I'm stopping this so that you can hear me so you can hear me and the mixer not going. But now that we have creamed the butter, sugar, and oil together, I am going to spoon in my flour and I'm going to alternate it with the milk and buttermilk that I have here. So my traditional way of doing things, or what I usually do, is 3 scoops, pour, 3 scoops, pour, 3 scoops, and I end with my liquid. And you always want to end with your milk or your liquid when you are alternating your flour in that liquid. I'm going to go ahead and add in my flavors. And so because this is 5 flavors, we are adding in vanilla, lemon, butter, coconut, rum. Give that a stir. Okay, so this is where we are. And my last step is adding the eggs. And one thing that I am going to do on the eggs is I am going to remove these white knots in here, and I'm going to beat my eggs before adding them in, again, to avoid over mixing the cake batter. So we're going to take these eggs, the shalas, I don't know how to say it, but taking these out. And again, I've always said I do this because my mother did it, but I also know that removing that makes for a smoother egg when you're beating them together. So you don't have to remove them, but I always think it's good to do. We don't like knots in our cake batter. So let that go. All right, and then raise it up, do a scoop around the bowl just to make sure we are getting all of the cake batter together. Do another scoop. I'll wipe this in here. One more gentle quick spin. All right, and we're ready. Take this off. So we have allowed this cake to bake for 90 minutes. We are going to do our test with the cake tester. And then to make sure it's coming out clean, which it is. Checking all sides, nothing. So we're gonna take this out. We're gonna allow it to cool for about 10 minutes before we flip it out. That will allow it to, one, kind of finish cooking or baking in the pan, and it'll also bring the temperature down. We are going to, while this is cooling, we are going to make our glaze that we will pour on top immediately after we flip the cake out. So let's move to the glaze. So to make the glaze, we are going to use some powdered sugar, very simple. Powdered sugar, you can use milk. I do prefer to use a little half and half, so a little cream and a little milk on my glaze. And then we're gonna also use the same 5 flavors that we put in the cake in the glaze. So I'm gonna start with scooping about a half of the powdered sugar. I'm gonna take, and you want to gradually add your cream in because again, it's a glaze, not an icing. So, and I'm just going to slowly add in. And using a fork, if you need to, you can use a whisk. I'm keeping it simple in the kitchen. Because when we are satisfying cravings, you do not always have to have something fancy to get it done. And I'm going to add a little more milk. As you can see, it's a nice consistency. We do have a full cake to glaze, so I may be adding just a little more powdered sugar. Let's see. Yeah, got it a little too. And then also when you're whisking it, or you want to make sure that you're getting all of the lumps out of it. So I think that's a good consistency for the glaze. So I'm going to add in my flavor. All 5 at one time. Yeah. All right. So we're going to set this to the side. We will go ahead and prepare. We're going to go ahead and flip the cake out since it has cooled, and then we will glaze it. When I flip out a bundt cake, I like to use a trivet because it makes it easier to pick it up, flip it over. So there's our cake. Still very warm. Then sit this. There's a method to my madness here where I can grab it. Worst case, I'll use the sides. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and use the sides. Whoa! It slid out of my hands. There we go. Let's see. Moment of truth. Ha ha! It's a plenty! That's how we like it. Yay! Yay! All right, so now we're gonna add our glaze. And what I'm gonna do, use this bowl. And we're just going to drizzle. Doesn't have to be doused in glaze. Cake is already good. The glaze is just a compliment to the cake, to your slice. So, go ahead and use this all up. Uh-oh. All right. I think we did good. So one thing I forgot to mention when we were baking, but I used a 12-cup bake pan, and the pound cake recipe does call for or makes 12 cups of cake batter. So if you are someone who has a 10-cup bake pan, then you'll only want to use 10 cups of the cake batter, and then maybe bake the rest out in some cupcakes or a small loaf. But this is 12 cups, and so we have a 12-cup cake. 12-cup cake batter, bundt cake. Is that right? I don't know. Anyways, 5-flavor pound cake. We have a perfect turnout, nice edges. I'm one of those that actually likes the crunch on the edges of the bundt cake. I don't know if everyone else does, but I do, and I'm baking to satisfy my craving today. So let's go ahead and slice this up and see just how good it tastes. So I'm like trying to find the perfect. One thing I like about bundt cakes like this is for people who want small cuts, you can always just use the ridges, and then for people who want hunks, you can use like the larger ridges. But I'm gonna go with the small slice for right now. Ooh, and it's still warm. I can tell by the way it's. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my God, it is still so warm. It is very warm. Yes, I love warm pound cake. It's still very warm. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This makes me happy. This makes me happy. That's yours. This moment of truth, I'm gonna take the crumbs that I kind of, and this is perfect. All flavors, as my brother often says, flavors are popping in your mouth, but the crunch on the bottom is superb. Light and fluffy, has the nice bounce back. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is good. Like, I already knew it was good. So that you have the crust on the bottom. Has a nice little crunch to it. So, we have made a 5-flavor pound cake. The flavors do consist of vanilla, lemon, butter, coconut, and rum. The cake is superb. Subscribe to the newsletter so that you can receive this recipe. It is one to die for. Definitely takes me back to home. My home smells amazing. Who needs a candle burning when you have pound cake? A fresh pound cake, and the aroma is filling the room. So again, thank you for joining me on this episode of Cravings Satisfied. I am V the Baker, and I will see you another time. Thank you.